morning, everyone. My name is Anastasia Mazur. I am president of Association My Madeira Island. I have been working in the area of media relations and journalism for quite a while. Just to give you the background of where all this information is coming from, I was a journalist for about 10 years, and after that, I was working in corporate, doing PR and media relations. And after this, I got to work in the nonprofit sector, and and I have been applying all this knowledge on the nonprofit work to increase the impact and visibility and dissemination of the projects and all the work that we do. And I must say, it's really helpful to be knowledgeable about the topic of storytelling and media relations. And it's something that I want to share with you today. The information and all the knowledge comes from personal experience, personal and professional experience, and something that was earned with personal sweat and blood. And I'll be sharing with you something that I find personally very helpful. So how it's going to be built? During storytelling, we will speak a little bit about the theory of storytelling and why about the main principles of it. And we will cover a little bit of practical approach to that. And as promised, we will see storytelling by humans and storytelling by artificial intelligence, because we all understand that we rely on artificial intelligence quite heavily nowadays. So this will be part one. And part two, we will see how you can disseminate your work, how you can reach more audience through working with journalists. We all love stories, right? Stories is something that is inherent to our behavior. This illustration of people sitting around the fire is something that we all love and understand. We just get together and we share stories. But the question is, why stories are so much important in our life? And by stories, I mean not only stories that we tell, it's also stories that we read or stories that we see, for example, on TV, in the movies, on Netflix even, right? And under storytelling, just heads up, just a disclosure, here we speak not only about books, we also speak about storytelling that can be applicable to writing projects. For example, when you apply for a project, how you present your idea, right? Or for example, when you create your CV and you go on a job interview, right? It's something that where you can apply storytelling as well, or on the cinema, or on any story that you speak about, that you tell about yourself or about your organization. Theory behind storytelling goes like this. We all want new experiences as human beings, but we are not always ready to suffer through the hardship of new experiences. This is why we all love to hear new stories where we can emphasize with the hero, where we can learn something from the hero and get something new. Without actually going through the trouble of doing what the hero did. Another interesting part of storytelling is that it really helps us humans to make connection with what is going on around us. Have you ever noticed how you are sitting in a coffee shop and on the nearby table somebody is telling a story to someone, you didn't even hear the beginning of it, you are chiming in the middle, and what you hear is that, and you know what, and you said, and he then said this, oh, can you imagine that this is what happened afterwards? And then it's something that we are inherently interested to know, to be part of, right? And the focus is that we humans don't operate with facts. If somebody presents to me some information in facts and numbers, I swear to you, it's not something that I'm gonna remember. But if the facts were transformed in the story, it's something that will stay with me forever. If not forever, then for a long time. This is how our human brain works. And this is something that you need to keep in mind when presenting information about your organization, about yourself. So facts, they don't really work. What works is stories. There is this famous writer, Nassim Taleb. He's from Lebanon, but he lives in the US, and he's the author of several bestseller books, such as Black Swan, Anti-Fragile, Skin in the Game, and some others. How he explains the magic of storytelling is that the world around us is a very messy, scary, and chaotic place. And we need someone to help us make sense out of it. Someone that helps us to put it in something that we can consume and understand. And when somebody is asking you, so tell me about your organization, basically what they are asking is, please put it in the form that will be easy for me to consume and to understand. And this is what we will be working on today and during the next 2 weeks. When a kid is born, the baby, what they need from the very beginning is love, affection, kindness. And then when they grow up a little bit, what they ask is stories. Can you please tell me a story? And it's not a coincidence. It's really important, and because we hear stories from the very beginning, from the early age, it's something that stays with us. We're just tuned to listen to the world in the form of stories, and these are the stories that are familiar to quite many. And I have a question to you, and I encourage you to respond in the chat. You might have heard, even if you didn't see anything from Marvel, you might have heard that Marvel, basically, they had hijacked the whole industry of movie making in the US and globally. When new Marvel movie is released, there have been researches and surveys. Young people, adults, kids, really people with advanced age. When they go to the cinema, they have a chance to go and see, I don't know, a drama or a thriller or something. And if there is a choice between some movie and a Marvel movie, they would go to watch Marvel. So why do we love it so much? I want to ask you that, and I would want you to reply in the chat. Why do people like Marvel comics so much? What do you think? Superheroes. We like to see some superpowers and superheroes. Actions, archetypes. All right. Engaging story with emotion. Great storytelling. They are easy to understand. Universe. It serves as an escape. Go to other reality. We can connect ourselves to these characters. Spider-Man, for example. Spider-Man, yes, it's an interesting character. Someone, a neighbor's, a guy from the neighborhood, right? A neighbor, a friendly neighbor. Because it's fictional, it makes you imagine and relate. Wonder Woman, yes. Narrate the impossible, making it possible. Very interesting. All right, so we have a lot of opinions why Marvel comics are so amazing. Elements like music and Spider-Man. Interesting. Because I thank you so much for sharing your opinions. It really shows that Marvel comics, they approach the movie making from many perspectives. One element why they are so popular is because they approach it from several angles at the same time. Marvel is an adventure movie. It's also relatable. It's also comic because it has elements of comedy, right? Whenever we watch something from Marvel, there will be also always some funny elements. There would be romance, there would be adventure, there would be thriller, there would be fights. So it's one movie that contains all elements that we like a lot. But another thing why they are so popular is that they are very relatable. Even though they speak about superheroes, and you can wonder, oh my God, but how is it relatable? I'm not a superhero. Why is it relatable? It is because they follow something that is ingrained in our head and in our heart and in our mind in the form of stories that follow ancient scripts. So Marvel Comics, they have all these elements that resonate with us because it all looks very familiar and very, very easy to understand. There were these two gentlemen. One is Joseph Campbell, the other one is Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a philosopher, a psychologist, a scientist, an academic. And Joseph Campbell was basically an academic and writer. And Joseph Campbell was the first one to describe something that is called the hero's journey. It was an academic work that describes how we perceive stories. And every Marvel story, every good movie follows the script of hero's journey. They say that Hollywood is not producing anything new. It's same 25 or 30 scripts that they're going through again and again and again. But this is true because it's indeed something that people rely on to create a recipe that would never fail. And Joseph Campbell created this hero. He described what hero's journey is, and he described the key archetypes. And I saw in the chat that someone mentioned the archetypes. It is something. It is key characters, we can say so, but not necessarily characters. Sometimes it's just an essence, a phenomenon of it that we humans perceive as something that is very familiar. For example, the archetype of a hero, the archetype of a father, the archetype of revenge, the archetype of a guide, a mentor, like us in this case. And he based these archetypes on the work of Carl Jung that has described many, many, many archetypes. It's something interesting that I really recommend to dive deeper into for you to understand how this whole universe of storytelling works. We're not going to focus on it too much at the moment. I will just show you a little bit of what hero's journey is in a couple of words. So hero is the main character of a story. It can be us, it can be a superhero, it can be anybody that is we're speaking about. And something happens to hero, and the hero starts the journey, which will be transformational for them. The hero lives in an ordinary world, then he receives call to action. So something happens, something is calling for them to start the journey. There would be always a mentor on the way that will help the hero to enter that different world that will be transformational for him. And this journey will take him through meeting enemies, through going through battles, something that is transformational for the hero. It's not necessarily physical battles. Sometimes it's something that would be happening internally to the hero while going through all these occasions, through these adventures. And the journey finishes with the hero usually getting back to the regular world, but transformed. And I encourage you to remember this word, transformation, because it's something that is very applicable to our work as nonprofits. Whatever you do helps your target audience, helps people around you, help your community to transform. And you will be able to tell these stories easier if you keep in mind these key elements. What other key elements are there in the hero's journey? I hope that you recognize these images. So the first image is from the movie that is called The Matrix. And it's the moment when Morpheus is offering a blue pill and a red pill to the main character, to Neo. Morpheus so we have Neo, that is the main character, who is the hero, right? On the journey, the hero meets the mentor. So in this case, Morpheus is his mentor. And usually in this on the hero's journey, there is something that would be present in most of them. There is an object. In this case, it's magical object, but keep in mind that in your stories, it will be easier for people to perceive it if you present some objects as well. So in this case, it's red pill and blue pill, right? The image on the right is Alice in Wonderland. I hope you recognize this image as well, right? So Alice had a transformational journey in the, well, depending on which book. So she had those journeys, and she had a guide, and the guide was the Cheshire cat, right? And she had a magical object, or an object. If you remember, she needed to take mushrooms with her. She would bite on one mushroom, she would grow. She would bite on the other mushroom, she would decrease. So that was another element of this. And just to show how important these elements and how present they are in all types of stories, you see on the bottom there is a biblical story of Adam and Eve, and they have a guide, which is the snake, and they have an object, which is an apple. So this is just to demonstrate to you that these elements are present in many stories, and it's something that stays in the form of archetypes in our mind. Carl Jung described it as collective unconscious, something that is there in our mind even though we don't pay attention to this so much. But for you, if you want to be a good storyteller, it's something that you need to be conscious of. All right. This is to demonstrate the power of storytelling. If we have Ukrainians on the call, or someone that has heard, have seen something about it, so this is a TV series that was very popular in Ukraine. It's not the cover, the poster of the TV series. I'm not showing the poster right now, just to make my point. The TV series was called The Servant of the People. And this is a story of a school teacher who makes a political career and becomes the president. The TV series was well made. It is funny. It shows the story how a simple person like you and me can become someone that will be speaking the truth, someone that will be having the support of everyone around, and who would make it to be the president, someone that will love and deserve, someone that would be standing our ground, and somebody that will be very supportive of what we need. They would not be corrupted. They would be simple people that made it and got power to transform things for the better. This is the poster. You see the president. This is already the president. He's still riding the bike because he comes from simple people, right? And you might recognize the face of that person, because this is the person that was, this is the main actor, this is the hero that was there on the TV series. President Volodymyr Zelensky, who now is on every screen on every country, even here in Portugal, because he's leading this massive war in Ukraine against Russia, who attacked the territory. And everything started from that TV series. And can you imagine how much people believed and embraced the idea of this small person, just this very trustful and very good person that makes it from being a school teacher to the president, that they actually voted for that person when he ran for the elections. This is the power of storytelling. To demonstrate how these archetypes and how the storytelling principles work for nonprofit, I will tell you the story of how our association, My Madeira Island, was started. So one of our, when people ask, okay, but tell us a little bit about your organization, what do you do? And I usually say that, okay, so the association started with digital projects. One of our first projects were in the area of digital, to be precise, how to start remote work, or how to build an online career or start an online business. These projects, they come from a simple fact that we live on a small island of Madeira, far away in the Atlantic Ocean. It is a very tourism destination, but you can understand that the job market is in hospitality. Hotels, bars, restaurants, and if you don't want to work there, or you don't see yourself as making career there, you don't have a job market, you leave. And this is very problematic for the population. This is problematic for young people that want to stay with their families, but they cannot really, because there is no future for them. At the same time, many people would come to Madeira Island to work because they work on their computer. They don't care where they are. It's called location independent, right? When they can be here and they work for the whole world. So this is where our project started. We were building a bridge between those that already have online careers and know how to work there, and young people, local young people that want to learn from it, right? But there is another part to it, because I was one of those people. I was one of those young people. When I came to Madeira Island, and I came as a volunteer, then I worked a little bit with the association. Then I faced the fact that it's not very easy to find a job here. I didn't see myself working in a bar or in a hotel, really. And other than that, you don't have really many options, right? And it was a very unpleasant time for me, because that would mean that I really need to pack my bags and go home. I was very, very worried. I didn't have much money. I was scared that I would not be able to pay the bills, right? And then step by step, I started discovering that there is actually jobs that I can do from my computer. And I'm speaking about 2017, 18, right? It was before COVID. It was not when this was very much widespread, right? And I started to get those jobs. And at some point, like months, 2, 3 in the journey, I understood, hey, actually, I think this can work out. And I remember that moment when I could breathe out and understand, hey, I will actually be able to pay the bills. I think I can make it. Then I figured that there are other people like me that are struggling with the same thing. And once I built this road for myself, we started to share this knowledge and competencies with other people. And this is the story that I tell to people when they ask about the organization. And I see from their reaction that it works. They understand what we are about. Then, of course, we added other types of projects, other topics to our work, but this is where we started. And this makes sense to people. And since it makes sense to people, I question myself, okay, so probably I'm touching on some crucial elements of storytelling. And then I started back engineering it, right? And it makes sense because people resonate with my personal journey. It's easier to connect to a person when a person shows vulnerabilities. It also helps to build it in the way that, okay, there is a problem, and this is how we came to the solution and the challenges that we overcame on the way. So it was transformational from there to now. The story shows transformation. All right. So a little bit of how we actually do it, the storytelling. In this project about the visibility and dissemination, you might have heard that we're building a toolbox of 101 cards, and there will be a section on storytelling that will have very actionable steps for you. I don't want to say tricks of storytelling, more like universal approaches that works in storytelling, right? I want to focus on only one today. So good stories, they teach, entertain, and inspire. It's either teach, entertain, or inspire, but the best stories, they actually do all these three things. There was this movie, some of you might have seen it, it's called Fight Club. But the story this time is not going to be about the movie, but about the author behind the book that was at the basis of the movie, Chuck Palahniuk, Ukrainian, actually, through his granddad. He published 36 essays for better writing. And he advocates a lot for the approach that is called heart and head, right? It's not enough to approach a story from the heart only, because many of us are rational, or we need rational elements to understand or to accept the story better. And it's not enough to approach the story only from the rational part, because we're all humans and we have feelings, emotions, and we want to emphasize, right? So this approach of heart and head works the best. When I say head, it means that you step in the story as an expert in something. You are either an expert or you can demonstrate that you have done your homework. Basically, you know what you're speaking about. Heart means that you share something from the human perspective. And for the audience to emphasize better with you, um, what I find very important is to be open and to allow to be vulnerable. For some, at the beginning, it is not very easy because showing our vulnerability, we risk to show ourselves as, I don't know, funny, incompetent. But we need to accept it because through vulnerability, we build connection and trust. People can connect to your experience. Maybe they have lived through the similar experience and it's something that they can understand and connect to better. When I speak about the story of how the association started, of me not having means for the existence, it is not very pleasant for me to admit that because, well, I am competent, I am very successful, I know many things and so on. So this kind of admitting that, okay, I'm here, I don't know what to do, I don't have money, I don't know what I'll be doing. Do I return home as a loser, or do I stay and do what? So this is not very pleasant thing to say. But then once I open this, um, I know that many people, all people have gone through some challenging moments in their lives, and it's something that they can understand better. So I encourage you to be able to show your vulnerability, to open up. And once you build this trust through heart and brain, you establish your authority as someone that speaks from the point of expertise and connection. And from there, you can take your listener anywhere. Person, when they talk to you, right? The whole storytelling, it can be boiled down to a very simple thing. It is people want to care. When they come to listen to you, when they invite you for a meeting, when they ask you to present your organization, what they are saying but not saying is that make me care. Whatever you're talking about, make me care. And it's important, and you can approach it from two perspectives. One would be to find out what they care for. And here I will tell you a very short story. Some years ago, I was on a global leadership program in the US, and we had these workshops, and we had a session where we had to simulate situations of advocacy, public advocacy. And we would approach, so like we were these activists, and on the other side we would approach a politician. And we were lucky enough, the politician was an actual politician. It was a senator from one of the states in Mexico. And we come to him and we say, I don't remember the topic, it was something like, I don't know, imagine environment or public health. And we come to him and we say, hey, look, you really need to support our action because this and this, it's so important. And he was like, hey, girls, we were really girls, it was like some years ago. It's something that you care for. I should care for this, but it's not my priority, honestly. My priority is my political career, my social standing. Make me care. Why would I care about what you're doing? And we were shocked because for us it was like, these are the things that good people should care for. And he was like, nope, no, it's not what is interesting for us, right? So what he said is that turn it the way that I would care for this, meaning do it the way that it will help my political career. It will give me more visibility. It will show me as a good politician or as a good candidate for the next elections and so on. So in this case, he showed us that we need to approach it from the point of view that would make him care for our cause, even though there would be other reasons that ours. Another reason, another way to make people care is to show why we care for this. Here's the trick. you need to understand yourself why you care for it. Not something on the surface, but why you genuinely care for it. And this is not very easy. You need to do some inner work for that. Another example. So some years ago, my friend contacted me. He was writing a book. It was about coding. It was a guide for beginner developers, beginner programmers. And he was sharing at the intro, he was sharing why he's writing this. And his premises was that, okay, so I studied in the university, then I started work, and I figured out that they don't teach the things that are important in the university. And I'm making this book for you guys to not make my mistakes or not to have the same struggle as I did. And I said, all right, this is a legit intro, but can we make it better? Can we find a way so that people will actually understand what kind of struggles you went through and why it's important to buy this book and to read it, right? And he's like, but I said everything. I said, okay, let's roll it back. How was it? How was the first day at the new job? And he said, okay, so I interviewed Thursday evening. On Friday morning, they already invited me to the office. And I came there. It was locked still because I came a bit early, Germany. He went downstairs. He was waiting on the bench, and he felt his heart pumping so hard. He was breathing so heavily. He was covered with sweat because he was having this anxiety of the first day. Then he calmed down. He went to the office. Eventually, colleagues arrived, and they started. One mentor started showing him around, and he showed the office, the colleagues, what he would be doing, and the same thing was happening during next 2 weeks. So he was going through this onboarding process, and he said this was one of the hardest periods of his life. He would go home. He would be willing to share this experience with his family because he got this amazing job, amazing projects, and so on. But he says he was so exhausted. He was so exhausted beyond conscious that he was having zero energy to talk to his family because so much information, not really what to do, but the structure around it. And he was shocked because all these things that they could have taught him in the university to prepare him for the actual life, and but they did not. And he figured out that this is something that he has gone through and he can share with other people, right? So this was a transformational experience for him, and this was something that he was ready to share. And this is why I feel this was a much better intro to the book, because it really showed why he cared, because he suffered through it himself. And other people could understand. I would understand it much better. It was very interesting to read the book to myself as well. Okay, so this is about the principles of storytelling, and the final part about the storytelling part is why we humans write stories better than artificial intelligence. Well, this is simple because, as I said, the most important element of all stories is making other people care. And robots don't care. What artificial intelligence does is they work with existing information, existing text, existing words, and then just shuffle it and put it in new forms. Yes, it will look like text, but is it something that we can actually emphasize with? I'll show you this example. It's the last part of storytelling. It's something that we internally discussed with the team of Visi. There was this phrase that one writer asked AI to write. Can you describe meeting your firstborn child? And this is the text that the AI produced. Meeting my firstborn child was truly magical experience. I will never forget, and na 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 na, all these adjectives and all this thrilled language. But I doubt it's something that will make you care for it. It really looks like something that people would write in the project application in Erasmus, I suppose. And then there is the text that was written by an actual person. He is so quiet, I said, looking up to the nurse. And through this first phrase, you can already feel that the person is worried. and then the story goes, right? This presentation will be available to you in the project, in the work materials, so you can read the story to the end. My point is, you can use AI to brush your text, especially if you work in non-native language, maybe. But I would not rely on AI to create the story for you, because they cannot transmit this sense of connection and sense of importance and care. Even when you ask ChatGPT to brush the story for you, be careful, because they can brush away some important elements. Yes, maybe they will not be as smooth as you would write, but this is something that is better to keep for other humans to be able to connect with you. So by this, we're finishing the part of storytelling, and I'm presenting to you the home task. The home task will be to write a statement about your organization, something that can be put on your website or told to other people about why you do what you do, and write it in the way that other people would care about it. I encourage you to keep it within 150 words. This is not much, but this is the most important, can be always fit in this word number. Please, let's have some minutes for questions or for comments.
Well, so last week I was in one of those wonderful master classes where afterwards they spam you for forever. But I think it was well worth it. It was nice because they also talked about the archetypes and the language used with that. And of course, it's always this thing of like, it's like using ChatGPT, using always those words that relate to this archetype may be a little bit restrictive, or maybe too recognizable to people with an educated eye, let's say, to recognize those things. But for me, I'm like and I'm not a know-it-all, but I do a lot of things. And so for me, it's always good to try to focus, because there we are again, and make it understandable for others. If I kind of come up with explaining a whole mosaic piece by piece, that might not be helpful. So for me, the archetypes actually, and it's very easy, ChatGPT does help with that. Does help also finding in those 150 words a more constringent storytelling, let's say. Yeah, that was what I found last week.
So what you're saying is that artificial intelligence can help you to make your writing tighter, to have it more focused.
No, I was only saying that AI, well, I use AI I told AI specifically the archetypes that I saw myself in. We had a very small, maybe I can also post that somewhere. We had a very small list of adjectives, and just so I chose some, and then I told ChatGPT to look for the words related to this archetype, and to do my text, yes, but then I would, of course, rewrite it in a way that is me.
Wow, sounds interesting. Storytelling, this topic is so big, so interested. I'm very excited about it. And yeah, of course, like this is the topic that deserves a week of training, where the approaches and the wording can be analyzed, because words really matter. It's just for this webinar, I was focusing on the general philosophy of it rather than the specifics. So yeah, but thank you so much for the comment. Yes, I totally agree that we can work with the archetypes and the story that we want to say through specific words as well.
Well, it's not a kind of question somehow, but okay, for me, I personally avoid AI. I don't use it. I want it to be incorporated in any way of make it an easy way of thinking or expressing my arguments. My question has to do with the statement about organization. Since the examples we saw, which were great, as books, they include also in many chapters um, like a hint of something that is going to come, and the emotional element prevails. Should we have emotional or description manually included in these 150 words? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's a very interesting question. And to answer it shortly, I would recommend you to approach this statement writing from the perspective of heart and head, right? To include the elements that would be descriptive, informative, but also add to this the angle of but why it matters, all right? Something where you would inform the person, the audience, and then explain why it matters. Sometimes we humans, we perceive the information, but there is so much information that we really need someone to help us understand. But what do I do with it? Help me to form an opinion. Help me to choose the viewpoint on this information. This is why we have coaches. This is why we have therapists. This is why we have mentors, because we want someone to help us form an opinion, or to have to help us to find attitude to that. So help people to find attitude, how to treat your organization, on which shelf to put your organization.
Sorry for, I want to add something. Our organization deals with literacy, environmental issues, sustainability, and cultural heritage. So that means our writing, the 150 words, should comprise these three sectors by giving the emotional.
No, this
No?
is not what
Okay.
I'm saying. This, if you want to embrace everything, you do it in your partnership identification form, if we're speaking about Erasmus, right? So you cover everything for people to understand, okay, so what actually, like, what is the whole scope of it? But for this statement, there should be focus on one thing, or on something that combines all these three things, because maybe this is the surface level, and below there is something that actually unites it. Why personally you care for all these three things, right? Maybe because all these three things, when combined, they will provide better future for youngsters in your town, all right?
One more maybe question before we move on from Tanya. Thank you, Anastasia. It was concise, clear, with good examples. My question, what would be the three most important practical advice to sum up you can give for the practical storytelling in social media or project writing and presenting, for example, to pay attention to what we can take away with us?
You cannot really generalize. You really need to see what audience you are talking to. Social storytelling for social media would be different from social storytelling for project writing, and storytelling during a job interview, right? So it's not something that you can generalize. You really need to understand your audience, the time constraints, and the key message that they can leave in this specific time, moment, and place, right? We're gonna have not storytelling, but best practices for social media during next webinars. And we're gonna have a session that will be dedicated to visibility and dissemination of project results. As for, in general, project writing, I would focus on those first. I will be sharing my approach. When I sit down to write a project, there are these first questions that explain why you want to do this project, and motivation or objectives and so on. And there would be other many pages of application afterwards, but I know for myself, if I focus and spend day two on writing those two first questions, when I put them clearly in the way that it demonstrates why it's important and why this project needs to be financed, then the rest of the application is happening by itself. You just need to focus on those two, if you work like me, and then the rest will figure out.